පුළුල් වශයෙන් සලකා බලනවා නම් මෙතෙක් දුරට ලබාගත් ප්‍රගතිය ගැන. ඒ කියන්නේ 2009 මැයි මාසයේ සිට අද දක්වා ඒ කාලය තුල අපි දන්නවා මේ විදිහේ අවස්ථා ලෝකයේ වෙන ප්‍රදේශවල ඇති වූ විට අවතැන් වෙච්ච පුද්ගලයන් පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්න निराකරණය කිරීමට දශකයට වඩා අවුරුදු 10කට වඩා කාලයක් ඉහිලා තියෙනවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන්. ඒ තමයි සාමාන්‍ය අත්දැකීම. අපේ රටේ 3 ලක්ෂයක් පමණ අවතැන් වෙන 2,97,000. දැන් ඒ අයට සහන සපයක් ඒ අයට අලුත් ජීවිතයක් ආරම්භ කිරීම සඳහා වමනා වාතාවරණයේ පරිසරය සකස් කර දීම. ඉතාමත් අසීරු වූ කාර්යයක්. හැබැයි ඒකෙන් 98%ක් දැන් අවසන් වෙලා තියෙනවා. අනෙක තමයි රජයට විරුද්ධව අවි ආයුධ ගත් පුද්ගලයන් සමාජයට යලි ඇතුළු කිරීම. ඒ තමත් අනුකම්පාවක් ඇතිව අවබෝධයක් ඇතිව ඒ වගේම ඒ අයට ඵලදායී ජීවිත සමාජයේ ගත කිරීමට පුළුවන් වෙන පරිදි වෘත්තිමය පුහුණුවක් ඒ පුද්ගලයන්ට ලබා දීලා. ඒ සියලුම කටයුතු වලින් 90%ක් අද වෙනතුරු සම්පූර්ණ වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒතර බිම් බෝම්බ ඉවත් කිරීම ලේසි වැඩක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක දැන් අවසන් වෙමින් පවතිනවා. හරි ටිකයි තව ඉතුරු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කරන්න. එතකොට අධි ආරක්ෂක කලාපයක් වශයෙන් අපේ රටේ තියෙන එකක් පමණයි. ඒ පළාලි ප්‍රදේශය. හැබැයි එතන මේ භූමියේ ප්‍රමාණය විශාල ලෙස අඩු වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට මේවා අපි සංසන්දනාත්මකව බලනවා නම් ලෝකයේ අනිත් අවස්ථාවල ලබාගත් ප්‍රගතිය සමග අද්විතීය ප්‍රගතිය ලබා ගැනීමට පුළුවන් වූ බව පැහැදිලි කරනවා. එතකොට ඊට වඩා ටිකක් කල් ගත වෙන නිර්දේශ තියෙනවා. ඒවා ස්වභාවයේ අනුවම ඊට වඩා කලක් ගත වෙනවා. උදාහරණයක් වශයෙන් ඉඩම් පිළිබඳ ඉඩම් වල බුද්ධිය පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්න. කොමිෂන් සභාවේ වාර්තාවේ දීර්ඝම විස්තර සහිත පරිච්ඡේදයේ 6 වෙනි පරිච්ඡේදයේ ඉඩම් ප්‍රශ්න වලට අදාළයි. ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග නිර්මාණය කළා ඒවා ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම ආරම්භ කළා. අනෙක භාෂාව පිළිබඳ අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමා මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයා ගිය අවුරුද්දේ ඩිසෙම්බර් මාසයේ ඒ වැඩපිළිවෙල ආරම්භ කළා ඉන්දියාවේ හිටපු ජනාධිපති ආචාර්ය අබ්දුල් කලාම් මහත්මයා සමග. භාෂාව ඒ කියන්නේ විශේෂයෙන්ම තරුණ පරපුරට සිංහල ශිෂ්‍යයන්ට දෙමළ භාෂාව පිළිබඳ අවබෝධයක් හා දමිළ ශිෂ්‍යයන්ට සිංහල භාෂාව පිළිබඳ යම්කිසි අවබෝධයක්. විශේෂයෙන් උතුරු ප්‍රදේශයේ සේවය කරන රජයේ නිලධාරීන් දමිළ භාෂාව පිළිබඳ අවබෝධයක් දැනුමක් ලබා දීලා ඒ අයගේ වැඩ කටයුතු වඩා කාර්යක්ෂම ලෙස ඉටු කර ගැනීමට පුළුවන් පදනමක් සකස් කිරීම ඒකෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ සියලුම ක්ෂේත්‍ර සම්බන්ධයෙන් ලබාගත් ප්‍රගතිය පිළිබඳ සවිස්තර කරුණු ඔබ සියලු දෙනාට ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම තමයි අද උදෑසන අපේ අරමුණ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
There are many agencies that are involved in this process, and as the Honourable Minister said, it cuts across the government. This is probably the reason why the Presidential Secretariat was asked to coordinate this activity, and I had the privilege of heading this group. It involves the Ministry of Defence, Ministry of Justice, Attorney General's Department, Department of Census and Statistics, the Legal Aid Commission, the Police Department, the Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka, known as ICTA. Then we had the Ministry of Public Administration and Home Affairs. Then the Armed Forces, the National Institute of Education, Commissioner General of Rehabilitation, Ministry of External Affairs, of course, Ministry of Resettlement, the Press Council, Ministry of Mass Media and Information, Ministry of Religious Affairs and Buddha Sasana, respective GAs where various issues are concerned, GAs of various districts, Presidential Task Force for the North and the East, the Ministry of Lands, which would play a vital role in time to come. We had the Department of National Planning, just to name the major ones. Rehabilitation and prison reforms, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Plantation Industries, Ministry of Child Development and Women's Affairs. So you will see that the entire government is involved in ensuring that the LLRC recommendations are implemented on time and within a given time frame. Well, you will obviously have the Treasury to support some of these activities. Whilst we had discussions, I also had parallel discussions with Secretary of the Treasury to ensure that there would be separate budget lines for 2013 so that each ministry would be able to undertake these tasks without any delay. And of course, most of these activities would entail budgets, and that is one of the reasons, if I may elaborate on this point, Honourable Minister, that when the LLRC presented its report to His Excellency the President in November last year and subsequently presented to Parliament in December last year, the national budget had already been presented. So obviously there was no way that the budget could have envisioned as to what needs to be done in 2012. So the recommendations that were presented in the LLRC report, mainly the 285 recommendation, entails sometimes activities running to maybe 3 years, 3.5 years, whereas there are many that are already ongoing and short-term like 3 months, 6 months. Those ministries, departments and government agencies, statutory corporations, boards could undertake some of the activities, and they have undertaken some of them during 2012 where they had the budget lines already. But in cases where the new budgets had to be, then obviously it had to be postponed to 2013, and that's how we have looked at this entire activity schedule. The National Plan of Action is arranged, as already mentioned by the Honourable Minister. Every recommendation that is contained in the LLRC has one or more corresponding activities. Sometimes there is one, sometimes there may be 3 or 4. For each of the activities, we have identified a key responsible agency. For each activity, there is also a KPI, which is the key performance indicator. Why we decided on this course of action is to ensure that it is only by ensuring that you have put down a KPI that an activity would be completed. We would be satisfied that an activity is completed only once that KPI is achieved. For instance, let me take one. Now, the whole set of recommendations are divided into 4 major areas. Recommendations relating to national policy, which means we strongly believe that the proposed Parliamentary Select Committee will have to look at some of the national issues. We also believe there are recommendations pertaining to the final phase of the conflict, as contained in the LLRC. I mean, these are not recommendations that we have come up with. These are the recommendations that have been presented to Parliament, as contained in the LLRC. Thirdly, recommendations related to human rights and national security concerns. Fourthly, recommendations related to resettlement and development. And that's why I think you heard agencies like Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education coming into play. If I take one, under international humanitarian law issues, ascertain more fully, this is actually contained in the LLRC 9.9 and 9.37a. The 285 recommendations, if one looks at it very carefully, analyzes it very carefully, there are overlapping recommendations, which in effect brings you to a score of something like 135 main recommendations. So we have grouped some of these together. 9.9, 9.37a would say, ascertain more fully the circumstances under which specific instances of death or injury to civilians could have occurred, and if such investigations disclose wrongful conduct, prosecute and punish the wrongdoers. That's one of the recommendations in the LLRC. What are the activities? We believe the activities would be complete ongoing disciplinary process being conducted in terms of armed forces statutes. Number 2, upon conclusion, take follow-up action to prosecute where relevant. Number 3, use the existing system as provided for in the Criminal Procedure Code to originate a complaint and give such mechanism sufficient publicity. That's the work that we did. Those activities were coined by us, this group that I mentioned earlier. What are the key responsible agencies? Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Justice, Attorney General's Department. What are the key performance indicators? For activity 1, we should see disciplinary inquiries concluded. Then we will say that activity is complete. For activity 2, which is upon conclusion, take follow-up action to prosecute where relevant, offenders prosecuted. Very clear, very precise, concrete. Use the existing system as provided for in the Criminal Procedure Code to originate a complaint and give such mechanism sufficient publicity. That is the third activity I mentioned. What is the key performance indicator? Cases filed in court. We would see a time frame for the first activity 12 months, for the second activity 24 months, for the third activity 24 months. Just to give you a glimpse of what is contained in this National Plan of Action. Honorable Minister, we will be uploading this to the PRIU website today in the afternoon so that this is made public. As it is, the Cabinet has been briefed. Every member of the Cabinet was presented with this and they have had looked at it and then approved it last evening, so that's why we are with you today explaining this in detail.